Chapter 3. Cornelius and Tuppe came down from the hill. At the place where the buses turn around, they parted company. Tuppe returned to Peter's Pets, composing as he did an improbable yarn about animal rights activists and the forcible abduction of a furry fish into a more than plausible truth, and one which would demand compensation. Cornelius stopped off at the telephone box to call Mr. Yarrow at his home. He spoke once more in the voice of Murphy Senior.
"My son is heartbroken,"
he told the youth employment officer.
"He so wanted that job as a mime artiste. He is terribly distraught."
"I'm so sorry," replied the Yarrow, who most certainly was. "But be assured of this, I will not rest until I have secured honest employment for your son." Cornelius feared that this would more than likely be the case. He felt they had seen more than enough of Mr. Yarrow.
"I am sending the boy away," he continued. "A couple of weeks' rest. That's what he needs. Kindly to have 10 days' holiday money sent on."
"Do what?"
"I'm holding you directly responsible for the decline in his health, the constant disappointments, the building up and dashing down of his hopes. He is in no fit state to attend further interviews at this time."
"I'm sorry, but I can't sanction holiday money."
"Then I will speak to the headmaster directly. We are fellow Freemasons. Have no fear, he will sort the matter out."
There was a bit of silence at Mr. Yarrow's end of the line. "I hardly feel we need to trouble the head over such trifles." Mr. Yarrow's voice had that lost soul quality about it. "Do you want the cheque made out for cash?"
"That would be fine. I'll speak to you soon then."
"Give Cornelius my best wishes and tell him I hope he gets well soon."
"I will. Goodbye, Mr. Yarrow."
"Goodbye, Mr. Murphy." Cornelius replaced the receiver. It was all too easy. It gave him no pleasure, but then the pointlessness of unemployment gave him no pleasure. He was bursting with grand schemes. Conning a few pounds from Mr. Yarrow and walking the streets held little appeal. Of course, he had no intention of becoming a 9-to-5er. He was a stuff of epics after all, a young man of special gifts, capable of changing the world. But the world was really taking its time to find this out. The dustbin men were picking up outside the wife's legs. "Morning, Cornelius," they yelled gaily. "Morning, dustbin men," the youth replied. "Don't forget to put your bin out today."
"I won't."
The bins were already out by the time Cornelius reached home. Home was number 23 Moby Dick Terrace, and number 23 was now the first house in the street, and number 33 the last, but more of that later. Cornelius lifted the lid from the bin which stood before his front door. The bin was, as ever, empty. A weekly tribute to the mother's skills in conservation and the recycling of the Murphy waste. Whatever entered that house stayed. If it could not be consumed or made to serve a useful purpose, then it didn't get through the front door in the first place. The mother was ecologically sound. Her system was pretty straightforward. She only purchased unpackaged products, which she bore home in her ancient shopping bag. Fresh meat, fruit and veg. Whatever could not be purchased unpackaged she manufactured herself. Butter and jam and tea. What else did you need? The Daddy's Daily tabloid served as firelighter and bottom wipe. Junk mail was readdressed to the sender and dispatched stampless. Peelings fed to the compost heap. Discarded clothing went to good causes. Nothing slipped through the net. Nothing went into the dustbin. At Christmas, the dustbin men always knocked to give Mrs. Murphy a box of chocolates and a bunch of flowers. Cornelius never failed to be unimpressed by the mother's ingenuity. He reasoned that at least half the population of the country was engaged in the production, marketing or disposal of totally useless articles, and should everyone act like his mother, society would grind to a halt. Cornelius envisaged massive unemployment, anarchy and chaos. Pestilence and devastation would march across the land, and the 4 horsemen ride the sky, and all those nice dustbin men would be out of a job. Cornelius dug in his pockets. He found the letter of introduction to Monsieur Messidor and tossed it into the dustbin. He was doing his bit to save the world. Cornelius turned his key in the lock and quietly entered the ancestral home. He had not been altogether honest with the parents regarding the job situation, and considered it prudent to steal silently away to his room rather than construct explanations for his early return from work. As he made sneak up the corridor to the stairs, the sounds of heated debate reached his ears, issuing from the front parlour. Cornelius knelt and pressed an ear to the keyhole of the closed door. "And still, I say, the boy should be told," came the voice of the daddy. "And I say he shouldn't," came the voice of the ecologically sound mama. "But his gifts could play their part in saving the world. A pension plan and prospects is all he needs."
You are missing the point, woman.
Don't call me a woman. You're the one wearing the wig.
It's not a wig, it's a hair enhancement facility, and those aren't your own bosoms, by the way.
My bosoms play no part in this discussion.
Nor does my bald spot.
Your bald spot is indicative.
Of what?
Of your bold outlook on life.
And who made it bold? You with the socks stuffed up your front?
They're matronly. They protect a warm and caring image. The boy needs that, and he needs a haircut also.
You can't cut his hair. It's big hair. Famous people always have big hair.
You don't.
I'm not famous.
I should never have married you. My mother was right.
You never had a mother.
Of course I had a mother. She was a pillar of the community.
She was a figment of your imagination. You never had a mother. I never had a mother. You know that.
But what about the boy?
He should be told.
We can't tell him. We took the oath. He must never be told. He will find out for himself when the time is right.
The stuff of epics, said the daddy. About that, Cornelius swung open the parlour door without knocking and strode into the room. The daddy was snoring noisily beneath the daily tabloid. The mother was knitting something for seamen from coloured string.
About what, dear?
She asked in a startled voice. About, oh.
You're home early. Did you have a nice evening?
Evening? The clock on the mantelpiece struck 10. Cornelius noticed that the lights were on and the curtains drawn. He glanced at his wristwatch. It agreed with the clock. The daddy stirred from beneath the newspaper. What is it?
It's Cornelius, dear. What did you want, dear?
I wanted to know. Cornelius could no longer remember what he wanted to know.
Yes, dear.
Nothing, mother.
Then good night, dear. And don't forget to put your light out.
I won't. Good night, mother. Father. Good night.